Daniel, thank you for joining me today. We're going to talk a little bit about nutrition and superior nutrition and superior size, and hopefully this will get to your audience too, and we'll be able to increase the education and understanding of a whole bunch of people.
Yeah,
Thanks.
for sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate
it's
it.
fun. So X3 is the most powerful muscle building tool out there, and after developing it, keep in touch with the customers, and we have a forum and everything like that. And so when I look at the customers, it was like half of them were putting on tons of muscle. Someone would put on 20 pounds of muscle in 6 months, which is insane.
Right.
And these are people who've been lifting for like 10 years, and they didn't get anything out of it. And then all of a sudden they're super muscular. But then there were other people who had done it for 6 months, and maybe they gained like a pound. Like they were leaner, they got leaner, but they weren't gaining much. And I'd ask them, tell me about your nutrition. And of course, and you know this, like you have clients who say, I eat a lot of protein. I get like 50 grams a day. Right, which is obviously like nothing. So then I need to look into what would be the best nutrition programming. And at first I was just kind of gonna let people do whatever they felt like doing.
Right.
But that's bad because there's a lot of bad information out there. Sorry to the vegans who are paying attention, but salad doesn't turn into muscle. Yeah, only muscle turns into muscle. So you need to be strict with your carnivore type nutrition. And even if you're not strict carnivore and you're going like 70% meat based. Now we also did develop Fortigen. So, which is a super efficient protein. It's vegan friendly.
Essential amino acids, right?
Yeah, it's essential amino acids. But it's essential amino acids made in the right way, because essential amino acids have been out for 50 years and nobody ever claimed they did anything to them, right? Like there's been some good research, but those guys were using like pharmaceutical lab created essential amino acids not available to the public. And so when you looked at that market, there's a lot of people that are selling amino acids that are made in the wrong way that don't do anything. You might as well be eating sand.
Right. Just converts to nitrogen.
Right. Just converting to nitrogen. So wanted to develop that for people who could make up that protein difference, because you're really supposed to get 1 gram per pound of body weight in protein. That's an absolute minimum. Like you want to go over that number every day. And that's what you're having your clients do.
Right.
So when
we all do that too.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing it, but to do it because you know the science, and we do, but a lot of your clients, they don't know that science yet, or maybe they've only heard that from you, or maybe they read an article in Men's Health, which there was an article recently that said you don't need protein to grow muscle.
Yeah.
I find that ironic for Men's Health, which features no fit people, like everyone that doesn't look like they work out,
right.
In the magazine. So that programming and that knowledge to people, it's you want to be really meat heavy, or if you're a vegan, you can have Fortigen, or if you don't want to eat 3 pounds of meat a day, because I'm 250 pounds. What do you weigh? You're
275.
You're 275 right now. Right. So you gotta have like 300 grams. We're both right around 300 grams of protein. Well, if you eat 3 pounds of steak, that last pound, especially if you're eating 1 meal a day, and we'll get to why we do that.
Yeah.
You eat 1 meal a day, you eat 3 pounds of steak, that last pound does not feel good.
Yeah, even if Gordon Ramsay cooked it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are, how good the steak is. You don't love that last third of it.
Yeah, because you're just satisfied, you're full.
Right.
Yeah, it's
right. You don't really need any more. And then, of course, you start to sweat, what they call meat sweats, where your body goes into thermogenesis, right? And I'm sure you've had a night or two where you ate a huge steak and then you're just covered in sweat all night long. Yeah. It's because the body doesn't have any mechanism to store protein as body fat. So what it does is it increases your activity level. So like you just start moving around a lot, or your body temperature goes up. There's muscular contractions you're not even really aware of, just more tonic contraction. And hence your body temperature goes up because the body is trying to burn that energy. It's trying to get rid of it. Really important to point out, like there's a lot of myths about eating too much protein, and you hear these people talk converts to sugar, and then you store it as body fat. That's completely untrue. Yeah. That's a misread of gluconeogenesis. So the process of gluconeogenesis is if your body needs glucose it can convert, excess or not, it can convert some protein into glucose. Like your brain needs glucose, but your body makes glucose, so you don't need to eat glucose because it gets converted through gluconeogenesis. But
Right.
when there is a conversion, it's like when that glucose is created, there's already there's already an address it needs to go to. Like it's being appropriated to the brain. So it's not like it gets lost on the way and turns into body fat. Like that doesn't happen. The body is much more precise. So you don't really have to worry about that, and that's why we really recommend carnivore nutrition.
There's also the study who I think Jason Peacock did the work on it, where he did he overconsumed protein for his subjects for over a year,
Right.
and nobody gained fat.
That's right.
It was one of the first studies that actually showed that protein doesn't store in fat.
Right.
It's one of my favorite referrals.
Right. I did not reference that in the book. I don't know why, because you're right. It is the easiest one. It's like a whole year.
And everybody gets it.
Yeah.
Because like they can be
They
super
don't.
complicated.
Right. They don't
It's
go
like,
into level.
even a person
Research
speaking
paper
like
written for
perfect
researchers.
English
By the
language,
way,
like let's say born
That's
American.
actually
Like
not
reading
the
a
best
clinical
kind of
study
research
will
study
be
because
very
journals
difficult
know
for a person.
the more
You can just run
read
into
it, the
the
more it gets cited.
you know, like
which is
in
really
medical
what they're after,
terminology,
because
you
that
just
increases
don't
their
understand.
reputation. Well, yeah, right. And I try and reference the studies that are a little easier to read,
Yeah.
so if somebody wants to look them up.
Like the gluconeogenesis one, I had a couple of those, so I
Yeah.
couldn't finish them.
Type of layman terms, and sometimes you can't, but then no one cites it because they're not sure what it's really about, or they
Yeah.
might be misreading it.
It's actually like a lot of information there.
Yeah,
You just can't
course.
figure it out in the
right.
matrix.
And sometimes just the statistical tests that are used are statistical tests that no one's ever heard of.
Mhm.
And so, like a Spearman-Rowe test, I like the Spearman-Rowe test. It compares two data sets and looks at the similarity.
Mhm.
But because nobody's heard of that, it's like it means nothing to me.
Right.
Right. So researchers have to be careful with that. And that's why we pick the ones we pick. We got to get more carnivore nutrition or more complete protein. So like Fortigen, it's almost 100% usable by the body, and like steak is 38% usable by the body. Like nothing's quite as good as Fortigen, but also Fortigen is making up for something that we don't have in our diets anymore that we used to, which is rotting material. So it's made with fermentation. I know it doesn't sound delicious,
Yeah.
but also a lot of people don't think it's delicious. But
It used to be different back in the day, though.
well, yeah, but that was all made wrong.
Right.
They just poured sugar into that. But it was normal for humans to eat rotting material. Like we would go, let's say we were in a tribe, 1,000 years ago, and we would go and kill a mammoth, and then we'd have a feast and we'd eat the mammoth. The last day we were eating it, the meat would be rotting, and we just flick the maggots off and keep eating it, right?
Yeah.
That's the only thing you do. It's
Yeah.
food. Like you're gonna eat it. And so that's when prehistoric humans were getting the highest quality protein, when they were eating the meat that was just starting to go bad. But for sanitation reasons, we don't do that anymore. But Fortigen replaces that. And so we get the benefit of the rotting material without the taste of the rotting material.
Right.
Right. I really wanted people to focus on. Now, I was just going with water fasting back then. Because when your body is completely absent of food, some great things happen. Your gut recovers. Your gut's not supposed to be working all the time. Sort of like your biceps are not supposed to be working all the time.
It's like completely opposite from what we've been told in the industry for a long
Right.
time.
Like
You're
6
supposed
meals
to-
a day are terrible.
Exactly, and you're supposed to feed the body from the moment you wake up until you go to sleep.
Right.
Just feed it less than it burns.
Right.
That doesn't really help your body recover nor produce the hormones that are helping
No.
you naturally stay lean. Right?
And I would even say it contributes to the overactivity of the intestines, contributes to what we see with these guys who take growth hormone in their gut that grows outward. they're irritating that tissue at all times.
Mhm.
What's it doing? It's basically like building calluses on the inside.
Yeah.
Because
the
it's
natural
never able to
body.
rest.
Yeah, like
So-
when you damage things in the body, like the instinct is to thicken it up.
Yeah.
Right. That's what. Same thing happens with the cardiovascular system when you're irritated with sugar.
That's
The
right.
vessels and the veins thicken up. Right. There's the inflammation.
Right. Inflammation in the veins, which is where the myth that LDL
Yeah.
is LDL cholesterol is bad for you. What happens is, you know, here's an artery, and then blood is going through it, but it sticks where the inflammation is. So it's the LDL, the low density lipoproteins, lipoprotein going through the arteries. So it sticks at these points, and then can cause a blockage and a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only for the people that eat high fat and high sugar.
Yeah.
The high sugar causes the inflammation. The high fat causes the abundance of low density lipoprotein, LDL, was called bad cholesterol. There's nothing bad about it at all. So it gets stuck there and then cause a heart attack. So don't worry about when we say carnivore nutrition. There's plenty of studies that say, in fact, a couple of them just came out saying higher levels of LDL cholesterol are associated with longer life, not shorter life. Right. So if you're not also eating sugar, you live longer by having high cholesterol.
Yep. And
Yeah.
you're just not supposed to have inflammation. Like you're not supposed to live in an inflammatory state of your body.
Well, think about where carbohydrates.
It never has been part of a human body. Like
Right,
inflammation.
because
It's never
in
been there.
nature,
Yeah.
carbohydrates only grow at the end of summer.
Right.
Right, where it's advantageous to get as fat as possible for the winter. In fact, bears give themselves type 2 diabetes every year. I would argue that type 2 diabetes is not a dysfunction. It's a function of the body, right?
The ability.
Right, it's the ability
To get fat as
where your
possible.
body can shift gears and to get as fat as possible because the winter's coming and you're going to do better if you're fatter. You can live off your body fat by just not eating. It'll keep you alive and also it'll keep you warmer. So, we live in a society now where we don't really want to be extra fat at any point in the year.
Nobody wants to be.
No.
It's like the number one
Yeah,
killer
right.
today is the morbid obesity.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Oh, no, that's medical fact. Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Everything obesity associated is contributing to all-cause mortality. So now that we have that, we add in the fasting, and the no food periods repair our guts. But also, if you look at, and I like animal studies for this reason, because animals don't go out drinking at night.
Yeah.
When they're in the middle of a
full
study.
control.
Yeah, you have full control. You can keep an animal in a cage. You can give it exactly what you give it, and what you don't give it, it's not taken in. Humans are terrible to study when it comes to nutrition
You
because
can't
they lie their
control it.
asses off.
That's why it's so tough to make a good one.
Right.
So how
yeah.
do you control people? Like,
Well, and really, nutrition studies are all surveys.
uh-huh.
Well, do people fill out the surveys truthfully? Maybe.
It's like the one that that's in your book that stated that the group 1 and all the way to group 5
Yeah.
in terms of meat consumption
Right.
and the death rate of who ate more meat
Right.
had a higher death. Group number 5 had the highest death rate, but the guy was literally like
Yeah.
counting even people who died in like a car accident.
Right.
Like,
Right.
it's
So
like-
yeah, because
You're
they're
making
looking at
medical
all
research about
it's
red
all cause
meats.
mortality.
Yeah.
Well, and also and there was an even more powerful one that looked at nitrate meat.
Okay.
So the only place you can find nitrate meat now in the you can't even find it in the United Kingdom.
What is it?
It's a preservative to
Okay.
keep meat how an Oscar Mayer hot dog you can keep in your freezer for a year,
Yeah.
and then you can just throw it in boiling water and it's edible.
Okay.
I won't say it's delicious, but it's
Yeah,
edible.
it's edible.
Right. So the nitrates in that meat, took these guys, they found 1,000 people who every single day of their lives ate an Oscar Mayer hot dog for 40 years, or meat with nitrates in it for
Okay.
40 years. Now, if you're a guy who's eating a gas station quality hot dog every day for 40 years, are you doing health? Probably not.
No.
Are you
convenient.
also consuming too much alcohol? Probably recreational drugs.
Yeah, some cigarettes.
Yeah, or smoking cigarettes. Whatever. You're not making healthy decisions. So they didn't control for any of those factors. And then it turns out that from the perspective of colorectal cancer, their death rate was 2% greater. Well, yeah, but they're poisoning themselves all day, every day, and you didn't control for those other variables. So, and also there's nitrates, which are toxic, which most meat eaters, like, we never eat that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just a bad study.
Yeah.
And it's like the number one like reference for vegans to say that meat is bad for you, but it's totally based on
that's one thing I found about studies. There's really one thing to share the studies and share the references and have a really understanding for human body of what's going on. Because you can really find the truth in anything you're trying to look for. Like, there was this one study where the guy he actually had his result before he even started his study, where he was pointing out that a static weight is better than variable resistance, where he had the static weight group lifting a lot heavier than the
I know
group,
exactly what study you're talking about.
right? Then the group with the
it's a worse written study.
It's like,
it was designed to fail.
Yeah, like, you had a result in your mind.
Yeah.
You don't do that in a science, do you?
Well,
It's
you're
like-
not supposed to, and the peer reviewers should have caught that. Yeah, they basically had people who lift whatever weight they want to lift, and then they had it compared to a group that was only allowed to use TheraBand.
Yeah.
Well, TheraBand, the most resistance you can get out of a TheraBand, the heaviest TheraBand at full stretch is 14 pounds.
Yeah, it's like,
It's like you use more strength putting your shirt on in the morning than you do in your workout.
So how much of a stimulus you get?
Right. So they wanted the variable resistance group to fail.
Yeah.
And I left that out of the book because it was a stupid
It
study.
makes no sense.
Right.
But to a person who doesn't really get into it, doesn't look to it, it seems like a clinical study. It seems like, as legit as it gets.
Right.
However, you really, like, that's how general public views it. Like, it's a study, it must be right. No, not really. It could be really structured.
Well, I don't know. I think this latest virus has gotten people to question studies because there's a
Okay.
lot of studies that say a lot of things, and then there's a lot of studies that say the opposite.
Yeah.
So I think people are going, I don't know. Oh, this is right.
Yeah.
So, and I like that. They should question it. They should learn to read them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and know when they're being not given the whole story.
Just like what you might be running into, or what me as a trainer I run into a lot, is the protein and kidney relationship, right?
Yeah, never been a study.
It's like,
There's never been a single study associating poor kidney health with protein consumption. There is, however, a kidney disease where you can't process protein, but you have to have the kidney dysfunction. You're in bad shape if you have that kidney dysfunction.
Yeah.
Because your body needs protein over everything else. So if you just can't process it, that's a dysfunction. That has nothing to do with the general population.
Right. And now you see the biggest recommendation when they found a little bit of more protein in your blood, and just like the regular blood work.
Yeah.
The number one thing you're going to hear from your doctor, you got to cut the protein. So what should I do?
Right.
Just increase fat and sugar?
Right.
Right. What should I do? Like, it makes
What,
actually
eat
no
more
sense.
cake?
Yeah, eat more cake or more
Yeah,
cheese.
exactly. Like you got to think about how irresponsible that advice
Right.
is. So yeah, don't eat protein. Okay, so there's only sugar and fat left.
Yeah. So what?
So
makes no sense.
Right,
Maybe some
right.
fiber with it, and you'll go poop 4 times a day.
Well, also fiber does nothing.
Yeah.
It does nothing for human life. You don't need it.
Yeah.
You can have it go through you. That's all it does is go through you. When we added that fasting in, and we saw, and the reason I mentioned animal models is because you can take 2 groups of mice. You can feed them exactly the same amount of calories. One group of mice has access to the calories all day long. The slow access. So, like the pellets they eat, a couple come out, and then they eat them, and then when they're done, a couple more come out. And they time it so that it lasts the whole day. The other group has all the pellets at once. And they eat them all, and they're stuffed. But with the 2 groups of mice, the 1 meal a day mice got stronger and leaner. And the other group of mice got fatter and weaker.
So they anabolize.
Right. And that's what leads us to a human study which talks about an anabolic acceleration.
Yeah.
When you go without any food for a long period of time.
And that's with no stimulus, is it?
Right. 2 groups of people.
Yeah.
Neither were working out at all. And in 6 months, the group that fasted gained 2.2 kilos of muscle doing nothing. The other group lost muscle.
Right.
Right. And they were just at a caloric deficit.
It's just the position you're holding your body in.
Right.
And how it reacts to what you're doing.
My thoughts here are, and like I like kind of bringing it back to anthropological view, like, you know, prehistoric man, like it's possible the central nervous system sees you unable to get a meal and thinks you might be too weak to catch your prey.
Yeah.
So it creates a series of anabolic signals. I believe some of the anabolic signals we don't fully understand. Like we know testosterone growth hormone. Growth hormone is not really anabolic, but they kind of go hand in hand. Then there's insulin growth factor 1 that's associated with the growth hormone. But when those signals happen, you're more able to put on muscle. So you don't want to stay anabolic all the time. You want to be anabolic for a window, and then you want to be not anabolic for a window, and be in more like a ketosis and fat burning mode. Because then when you go back into the anabolic, you go to another anabolic period. That anabolic period is much more powerful.
I see that.
Yeah, and I call it the anabolic acceleration or anabolic rebound from the fast.
So here's where I can tell it from the practice, because I'm out there in the field with people. Like,
right, you have
people,
way more practical information than I do.
So I'm there with them. Like I
Right.
see them transform. I put them through these protocols of fasting and carnivore diet. Some of them like to have some little carbs with it. Some of them just go strictly carnivores based on their preferences.
Yeah.
But here's what I see. Every single time they go into this period of, let's say my favorite protocol will be 123. If I did a person for a weight loss, and they're like, I need to lose 40 or 50 pounds, and I'm not really tell them or force them to do anything. My job is to explain to you what's going to work the best, slower and faster. And then we're going to work together to see what's most practical for you. Because also, if you're like alcoholic and sugar addicted, I can't put you on 123 or 148s right away. You got to build that fat adaptation towards it, right?
Does everybody know what like 123 is? So you eat in 1 hour, and then 23 hours nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So 1 hour for consuming all your calories.
Yeah.
So we can't really do that with the person who's addicted to the alcohol or sugar. Like they just will not be able to handle. So we got to fix this problem first.
Sure.
Hold them in a little bit longer window, as I do with these type of people, and then after they feel better, they get the adaptation, they get the lifestyle, and they just get used to it. We shorten the eating window, and then we shorten it more and more until they get to 123, and then we implement dry fasting. Because also what I learned, it's much better for a person who has some experience with fasting. Doesn't have to be advanced. This is just
you can't go dry fasting first.
right away.
You
Exactly.
cannot do that.
And that comes from the practice. I didn't really study it. I see it from the practice. Like you have to have some type of skill.
It's tolerance.
Yeah, tolerance.
You just got to build up.
So build up there, and then you implement the dry fasting, and to the people who already been doing fasting, we just add the dry fasting in. The feedback I get is like, I didn't even feel it.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, because my protocol is usually, it's not a Ramadan one, but it's overnight, so you sleep through it. I try to make it as practical for a everyday person as possible.
They do eat, or they do drink some fluid at the end of the day.
Yeah, 12 and 12. That's what I do. 12-hour hydration window, 12-hour dry fasting window.
That is the style of Ramadan.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like basically the sun's out, no food, no water.
So
when the sun
actually
goes
the opposite.
down,
The Ramadan, they don't eat and they don't drink during the day, right? So what we do, we eat and drink during the day.
You do it
then we
opposite.
dry fast, exactly.
So the reason for dry fasting, it's a very controversial topic because a lot of Westerners and Western medicine practitioners are afraid of it. Because we know, like phlebotomists know that you deal with somebody dehydrated and they're a harder patient to deal with. You talk to an anesthesiologist, they're harder to keep alive while they're on the operating table. So a lot of people just imagine, I want people to know, like, while we're talking about it, like this is for entertainment purposes and informational purposes only. You really need to check with your doctor, but do this. If you're going to follow any of the advice in this video, like past this point where we're talking about dry fasting, talk to your doctor about Ramadan fasting. And if they know a little bit about it, they will know. If they know anything about it, they will know it is safe. Because there have been almost 2 billion people doing this for 800 years.
I got active Ramadan clients right now.
Right.
It's 4 of them that are active. They're practicing the Ramadan, and there's no such a thing as like nobody will talk into your religion. You just do it, and after you do it, after a month, they feel better. They're so much leaner because now typical Ramadan, like they don't eat the healthiest foods when they eat, right? Let's say their typical meal will be some bread, some sauce, some lamb, some rice. Right before the sun comes up and after it goes down, then they rehydrate themselves. They still lose fat and they still look better. They improve their body composition. Now the people on Ramadan I have, they have structured meal plans for themselves. And like I'm really looking forward to, I'll send you the pictures and I'll send you the results after the first 30 days of like strict Ramadan. Because remember, these people are, I have one person like he's doing 22 hours of dry fast, right? That's just his religious preference. There's nothing you can say about it.
Well, depending on where you live, the daylight is longer. So there are some instances of people who are doing Ramadan fasting.
When the religion tells you that you have to, you just follow it, and then you just wait for the results at the end of the month. We made sure the protein's there, the training's there. All the entire environment of the body is in a position of burning tons of fat and building the muscle. So I'm very curious about this one. How it's going to turn out.
People need to keep in mind that the studies on Ramadan are not done with bodybuilders, they're done with regular people. And while they do burn a lot of body fat, that's not their goal, to keep it low. So they eat very irresponsibly at night. It's like they have like a feast every day. So like you won't see, like, it doesn't look like it's the holy grail of fat loss, only because of their practice, not because like they don't care. It's just not their goal.
You just eat like a normal person.
Right, and so I point to the Ramadan fasting because it shows that it's safe. Like there's not a lot of people. There's never been a statistically significant like episode of anything that happened during Ramadan fasting. They end up being a lot healthier. Their metabolic health is better. Their insulin tolerance is insulin sensitivity is better.
Accelerated autophagy.
Right, accelerated autophagy. Right, like normally you have to wait. You have to do a 3-day water fast to get into autophagy, but there's people who are fasting for 12 hours for Ramadan without water, and they get into autophagy.
So let's get a little bit into that. Why is that?
Well, when the body goes after metabolic water, as in breaking down fat cells, that is autophagy. And so, like, if you look at water's hydrogen and oxygen, what's a fat cell? It's mostly hydrogen and oxygen. So it breaks down the fat cell, converts it to water, so your body can use it. So when you're like, quote, dehydrated, which hydration standards are made up, first of all. The idea you need to have 2 liters of water, somebody's made that up. Like there's never been a study that really shows. That's when the body starts urinating at a faster rate. So that's where your body doesn't want any more water. That doesn't mean it's what you need. So, but that's all the information we have, so that's the recommendation. So I get it, but also I don't think that's necessarily what we should be telling people, because maybe by being that hydrated, they're unable to engage other systems of the body that should be engaged, like metabolic water. And so the metabolic water, like from an athletic perspective, from an aesthetic perspective, you're going to be a competitive bodybuilder, or you just want to look better. Now, an athlete should never do this in competition. Like if you need to perform, obviously don't dry fast, the day before the Olympics. Like you're not going to get better necessarily performance, though the workouts, if you're just lifting or you're just using X3, you will actually have a great workout, even in the fasted state, even in the dry fasted state.
Homeostasis with anything.
Yeah. You do definitely get used to it, but it's safe, and then you can go that whole day. And on the forum, John Farrow was a he's a chiropractor, for those of you who don't know or don't follow the forum, but he's in wrestling, in American wrestling. dehydration is a tool that had in the past been used to get into a lower weight class. And they used to do this in MMA also. And there's rules against it now because people can hurt themselves. So they'll go a couple days without water to try and keep dropping into a lower weight class. Yeah, don't do that. You can't do that. You just
why would you?
just go the Ramadan rules and you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, and you're gonna feel amazing. Like one thing I noticed, like when I started talking about dry fast, like people immediately imagine like a corpse on a desert being eaten by vultures. It's not us. It's not what we do. Like,
that's not all. You feel super.
You feel amazing. Like if you ever ran into the symptom of dehydration, just drink. And then you repeat it tomorrow.
Right.
You'll
In
get
fact,
better at it.
the way we do it, I don't ever feel thirsty.
Yeah.
Or hungry, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's just like if I felt thirsty or if I felt dry mouth. Now, of course, we've built into this, so it's like the new normal for us. But and for your clients, I'm sure they never say like, "Oh my God, I'm so thirsty, I'm just dying for a sip of water."
That's why I tell them just go ahead and drink.
Right.
Like, because today you might just have a day where your requirements of waters are up. Like, the things with the water, it's like you said, there's no standard because how it could be. Like, the temperature of the room goes up, the requirement is going to go up, right? Like you're walking the street in your hoodie, or when a tank top, the requirements are different, and every single cell needs hydration. So how can you assume, what's on the plan today? So that's why I tell them, like, if you don't feel good or if you have a symptom of dehydration, just hydrate yourself. Like tomorrow you're gonna get better. Yeah, you're gonna be better. Like your body will get better at living in this type of environment. Right. And after they do that, I don't really get it a lot because 12 hours is really what everybody can do. Sometimes I get people reach out to me, it's like, hey, I did 14 hours. Yeah. I mean, how did you feel? I felt amazing. Well, that's all we really know. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's all we really know about the human health. Like, it's amazing. Feeling amazing, having a lean and strong body is as good as you get.
So you're never going to see a study where researchers are telling people they can't drink water because that's unethical. Because we do need water to live, so it'll never pass a human ethics board. So the only place you're going to see that type of study is out of a country that doesn't feel that way, like the Middle East, because they have Ramadan. So the best research is from that Ramadan, from the Ramadan fasting. In those countries, they just have great research about it, and it's safe, and people just don't have anything to worry about.
And so is the fat loss.
Great fat loss.
Now, that's like the most attractive thing about dry fasting in a point of a normal person, like in a point of view of the normal person. It's like, I had this phone call the other day with a person, and then she's like, yeah, I would try it, because I have a lot of couples in my coaching program as well. And then she's like, yeah, I would try it, but my husband's not really down. He likes to drink water at night. I'm like, yeah, sure, that's fine. So then as I'm talking, and I get to the point where I mention it's accelerated fat loss. It's much more powerful than regular fasting. And then he's like, oh, that's all you gotta say. I'm in. Right. He's like, I just want to get rid of this body fat. And here's what I always recommend, like, losing body fat is zero fun. It's like, there's nothing enjoyable about it, in my opinion. So I always tell people, like, just blow it off. Like, get it down as fast as possible. Don't choose the 2-year path. Because you have much more powerful systems in the body that can do it. Like, you use the right signal, use the right nutrition, use the right fasting protocol, and watch it fly down.
And then you can go, like, one meal every 48 hours or one meal.
Well, that's like the Bugatti Chiron. It's like the fastest way.
So
I have a couple of people who do that. There's this one guy who's down 13.1% of body fat in 10 weeks.
Wow.
Right? It's 148s and a carnivore. Like, most people, they can't lose 13.1% of body fat in their lifetime. They try. I mean, let's talk the practical standpoint. Like, they get down 7, they go back up 4. They get down another 7, then they go back up 5, and this is just like a, they're a lifetime circle.
Every bodybuilder I've ever met has that story.
That's my story. That's my story. It's like you got to bulk up and you got to cut down. Yeah, you don't.
Right. You don't. Really, it's just your fat going up and down. You're really not putting on.
That's all you're doing. You get fat and then you do weight loss.
Right.
And then you get fat.
Well, I really have, since day one, I knew the whole bulking cutting thing was just basically getting fat and then torturing yourself to get lean, and just don't do that. Just get lean, stay lean,
and it's like,
put on muscle while you're lean.
Exactly.
Because the research is there. We know you can do that.
And at 25%, you don't really notice much of a muscle gain. Like, okay, even if you're building, you don't see it, it's not nearly as fast as when you're lean. Like, always when I included myself and included all of my clients, like when I did a lean first.
Yeah.
And then we throw in the calories and we do the rebound effects. And then again, fat burning effect for a little bit, then bounce up the calories, then pull them back after they stop getting the response they were getting before. So you know that, okay, rebound effect is kind of coming back down. That's when you just reset it.
Right.
You just, no, that's what I do. So I just reset it, I put them back in the deficit for a little bit, not long. The person's already experienced in a fasting, so I'll just put them on 48s and carnivore, 1 meal every other day. And they pull it for 3 or 4 rotations. And that's usually enough to put them back on the higher calories, and they boom, anabolize again. And the results are like, you know how internet works, but sometimes I get a message like that's not a real transformation. And I'm like, that's actually a person who lives life. Like, yeah, that's a real person. They're like, no, it's a Photoshop. I'm like, man, I can't really help you there. Only thing I can say, no, it's not a Photoshop. Like, he's a live person.
Well, yeah, jealous people say all kinds of stupid things.
Yeah, so that's when like, wow, these protocols are intense, or so intense that it also almost makes other viewers not believe how much fat I can lose in a short period of time.
But it is funny how someone who's never tried it is convinced that they know that it's not real.
It's only the person who never tried it.
Right.
Or only the person who has never used Water X3, never done fasting, and never heard about carnivore before is going to be the one who's more
the critics of X3 are all people who've never used it.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can't really talk about something you never tried or you never did.
Or my favorite reviews are where they like get like a broomstick and like a $5 band from Walmart, and they're like, "This is X3." It's like
or I used it for 3 months and didn't put on that much muscle. Yeah, well, the 20 pounds resistance doesn't do much. Right.
They're not using a meaningful resistance, right?
Exactly.
So it's hilarious, and those videos just end up being comical. That's it, because again, people then the fans of the company will come in and be like, "You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You didn't use the product."
And when you look, you just, whether it's a custom made or if it's made wrong way, or they just don't use the proper nutrition along with it. So I understand this is a different. I understand this is a different perspective.
Right.
This is the right perspective, though.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's way better results than we've ever seen.
Yeah, sometimes you might hear back, like, sometimes you might get it's like, yeah, I heard of it, but I just don't believe it that much. Well, there's nothing to believe in. This is no religion. Like, you better know.
And it's backed up.
Yeah, you better know how the body works or it doesn't. And that's why I usually tell people, and everybody who gets on it, like, surprisingly, everybody gets lean and muscular, and health is going up. They feel better.
Right.
Now that just brings me to the point that every human body has a structured instinctive behavior and a response to the environments you present it to, right? And then you put every human body through the protocol like this, and every human body has the same results. Now it's really genetically structured of how much muscle who's going to put on, and how fast will this or that person achieve a fat loss, but they're all walking the same highway. It's always the same direction. So that's just from like a practical standpoint of the X3 and a dry fast really accelerated everything. That's when the results started being more.
That was such a great moment when I finally read enough research and starting to share what dry fasting can do. And then I ran one experiment. I went probably 5 days, just not eating or drinking during the day.
How did you feel? Okay, during the day. Okay, I thought 5 days straight.
No, I would not do that. Well, I tried 3 days with no fluids and no, just I wanted to see, like, and never do that, and also it wasn't all that beneficial because I was unable to perform. Like, I couldn't work out the last day. It just felt garbage. So, okay, so that's too much.
Yeah.
But when it comes back to hydration and normative data, you're going to hear this term from physicians all the time. Normative data is what's normal in the population. The problem with normative data is you're compared to the fat, sick, and obese people that make up the population, and that's what's considered healthy.
Yeah.
So what's average is what's considered healthy. That's a huge problem because people are in terrible shape.
This is
and they're
bad.
right, and they're
really
dying of chronic disease. More than half the country is completely ill, and we ignore all that for the sake of finding out what the average is, because we always want to steer people back towards the average. So athletes never are average. They're pushing their systems to the maximum, and they're a lot healthier in most regards. So when somebody says normative data to you, you just laugh at them.
You laugh because here's what happens. Like, I did this person who's very fit, and they're lean, and they're like, let's say 53, but their skin looks like they're 30.
Yeah.
Like, they look amazing on the outside. They feel amazing on the inside. Like, they wake up at 5 a.m. and at 5:30 a.m. they have a conference call, which is really important, and they're present. They're focused. They can really focus on whatever it has to be within 30 minutes after they're waking up. So it's pretty safe to say that they're healthy.
Right.
They go to the doctor, they get their lab work done, and it comes off. It's like, what, you consuming too much protein, or too much of that, or this.
Or your LDLs
or the LDL, your LDL is high.
Yeah.
That's like the most common one. And LDL and the protein is what I see usually the most.
Or
the
lipids,
creatinine
or
levels, right?
creatinine levels, or triglycerides.
Yep.
Yeah, because if you do like a carb loading to have like like a hyperplasia type effect, which is detailed in the book. So there is a place for carbohydrates that's beyond just getting you fat, but it's got to be timed very specific, in a very specific way. But if somebody does that and then they go get their blood work done, it's going to look like triglycerides are high. Well, yeah, for maybe 20 minutes.
So that's caused by hyperplasia.
No, it's caused by the actual insulin event.
Okay.
Yeah, but and that's part of the reason why I switched from rice to glucose tablets.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing. Keep in mind, like, we're talking about Daniel's clients, we're talking about what Daniel does, what I do, and if you want to do this, especially the fasting part, you got to talk to your physician. And specifically say Ramadan fasting, because, like I said, if they're a good physician, they know what that is and why people do it, and that people don't get hurt doing it.
Or in my experience, not many physicians will know. Nothing against, but
they'll know Ramadan fasting.
Okay.
Dude, almost 2 billion people
Yeah.
around the world do it.
I mean, the
it's like
science,
1.8 billion people do it.
the science behind it, because it's just very, very common to get the feedback. Like, never do it. Don't ever do it.
Well, they'll know that it's safe. They won't know why anybody would want to do it, but the why is not really. That's not what the doctors are for. Like, they don't tell you how to live your life. They just tell you what not to do or what you need to change.
And back to when I wanted to tell you about this fit person, right?
Yeah.
And I have this like 53-year-old fit person that's looking amazing, feeling amazing. They're healthy. They come to get the blood work done, and it's off.
Right.
And here comes the person who is overweight, maybe obese, has like poor eating habits and drinking habits. Obviously doesn't really live the healthiest life. At 38, their skin looks like really old. Might have a cellulite as well. A lot of it, right? And around stomach as well. And you see that the body is just not behaving the right way, and their blood work comes out clear.
Right.
You ask them, like, how was your blood?
Because it's closer to the normative.
Yeah, it's like, how was your blood? It was good. It turned out fine. I'm like, wow. And this lean person, he's the one who's doing it wrong. He's the one, like, he's training, he's physically active. He has musculature, he has low body fat. and he's the one doing it wrong. It's like, it makes you really question, like, can I really rely on, these checkups and stuff? Like, of course, there's a place for it. Definitely, there's a place for it. But just in terms of like general fitness, if you're feeling amazing and you're looking amazing, like that's only, as I said, correct me if I'm wrong, that's as much as you know about the health as it gets, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, Dr. Baker, our carnivore doctor, he doesn't like the standard tests. He says, how do you feel?
Yeah.
Like you don't need a blood test.
Yeah.
If you feel like garbage, you don't need a blood test to confirm it. You feel like garbage. If you feel great, you again probably don't need a blood test. You probably because you're doing great.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that's why I love him and his theories, is because it takes so much pressure off of your shoulders.
Right.
Because when you have to fall under this specific standard, you got to cut the protein and increase the fats and carbs, for example. Your body will start following what you do and it will start acting that way too. So you're not really getting the results you want from a physical standpoint just to match the standards. And then you just have tons of question marks in your head. You're trying to reach the goal of some type of a physical appearance. You just can't get there with the nutrition that's being recommended to you. Because there's just not enough protein, too much carbohydrates, too much fruits, for example, too much fiber. And training, it's like the blood work after strength training, it's just a mess. Like if you went to get your blood work done right after you train, you're gonna be one of the unhealthiest people out there. Like, it's gonna be completely off. So that's why even if you're like, for example, gonna be training is gonna elevate a certain levels of a certain hormones, you're gonna be recommended, stop doing this, stop doing that, and everything that you recommended to stop doing is actually making you not get in shape.
Right.
Because you're just falling back to the standard that these tests are designed for.
Right.
That's what I see just like when average fit person.
The recommendations for the tests.
Yeah, the recommendations. Right. And there's not coming to like discovering like, I'm not talking about discovering a really, really chronic disease or something that's very important in the body. It's just a basic checkup where, it just makes no sense. Like when you're healthy and doing all the healthy things, it turns out bad.
Right. Well, it just shows that the tests aren't that great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my favorite example in modern times is pedometers.
Okay.
So many people are all about how many steps did you take. Okay, mechanical pedometers have been around since the 1970s. And physicians never gave a shit about how many steps you took.
Yeah.
It was only when Apple started having pedometers in the phones and in the smartwatches, and then it was like, okay, now the doctors wanted to be cool, so they really wanted to ask you how many steps, so they could be more relatable. It doesn't matter how many steps. Like, what's your blood pressure? What does an echocardiograph look like? Like, those are useful tests. You can have a dysfunctional heart. You can be eating Twinkies while you're going on your 10,000 step walk.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to help you.
No.
Right.
Yeah,
so, yeah, and there are people like that.
Yeah.
Or who get home from their 10,000 step walk and they have a large pizza.
And they have large pizza, yeah. Or you have people who are really like trying to help themselves with that. They go overboard. They go to 20,000 steps in terms of doing the steady cardio part, thinking that they're going to actually help themselves burn fat, but hormonally they unfortunately do the exact opposite.
Well, when they walk, they stay out of target heart rate. So walking's good.
Yeah.
Running
is the running.
Running for sustained heart rate, that's bad. That upregulates cortisol and that'll diminish muscle.
Right. Like
you will lose muscle. There's no faster way to lose muscle than running, like distance running. But then if they want to do like I love how people say, like, can I do interval cardio? And I'm like, why would you call it interval cardio? Now, I mean, also, like, what is cardio? What does your body view as exercise? It's not like you have two gears, it's cardio or strength, and your body's shifting the gears. No, like, activity is activity. What's the activity putting a stress on? Is it the heart more, or is it the musculature more, or what? Now, with resistance exercise, especially with X3, with the variable resistance, we have a massive cardiovascular stimulus in period of time. Yeah, I mean, you're out of
Jesus
breath. You're
Christ,
just like gasping for air at the end of every set.
Yeah, after front squats, it takes me 15 minutes to stand up.
Oh yeah, exactly. You're just on your knees, like gasping for air. So yeah, like you don't have to wonder if there's a cardiovascular benefit from that. And spiking the heart rate and then having it come back down, and spiking it again and having it come back down, is a much better way to train cardiac muscle than just having it come up and then stay steady and then having it go back down. Sort of like low intensity weightlifting. Did that ever do anything for anyone? No. So I would argue there's actually no such thing as cardio. It's just really shitty strength training that'll never get you stronger. But from a heart perspective, they're kind of both doing the same thing. So
how about the structural damage it does?
Right, the repetitive motions, like you don't need much repetitive motions. There's people who type and they have carpal tunnel. Like we're not made to perform small movements in a repetitive way. That's really damaging to us. But heavy movements in brief periods of time, those are great.
And how about the structural damage and muscle hypertrophy?
Muscle damage is the opposite of what people used to think it was. So people used to think they damage a muscle and then it grows back bigger. Yeah.
Standard. That's like what you hear. Nobody's going to argue with that.
Right. That's an oversimplification, and oversimplification is another word for wrong. What happens is you fatigue a muscle. You get the muscle so that it can perform anymore. Then it is stimulated for muscle protein synthesis to make each cell bigger. And also, if you have an energy demand, then there's a sarcoplasmic effect. So that's both myofibril and sarcoplasmic growth. But if you damage the muscle, your activity in protein synthesis will only go to fix the damage. And you'll have either very little or no growth at all.
Yeah.
So the people that are like doing, this is part of the reason why the American College of Sports Medicine tells you to not, mix it up or like confuse the muscle. Muscle confusion theory.
Heard of it. I lived it.
Yeah, right. Like that's gone, and like they say, the American College of Sports Medicine actually has a position stand paper on this, which is like this is the way it is. There's been enough research where we're almost 100% convinced that there's never going to be anything that conflicts with what we're going to say right now, which is stick to the same workout, stick to basic barbell movements. Because that's what's going to grow you the most muscle, and mixing it up only hurts you.
Yeah, and exactly. You can't really roll the muscle to the right, to the left, up or down.
Right.
To
You
the
can't
sides,
change the shape of a muscle.
Yeah, that's what
You can't train for upper pecs. That's another myth.
That's what I'm saying. It just takes so much pressure off your shoulders.
Right.
Because all these years you're walking this path of fitness or trying to figure out these things. Like you're busting your ass genuinely to get better. Like nobody goes to the gym, like you say.
Right.
To kill time, you want to get better.
You're looking for a result. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you just want to get that, let's say, upper chest or inner biceps bigger.
That's not how it works.
But it doesn't work, and you're trying to help
people
yourself.
with an amazing upper chest were born with an amazing upper chest.
And then
the shape of your muscle is like your fingerprint. I don't care what you do, you're not changing it.
Exactly.
You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller. That's it.
So when you know that, it just makes it so much easier for it to get fit.
Right, because you're not worried about hitting a muscle from multiple angles. And then that's all bullshit.
And you got it answered. You just don't worry about this specific topic anymore because it's done.
Yeah.
Same thing with, for example, like recommendations of health standards from Dr. Sean Baker. It takes a lot of pressure off of you. Like you feel amazing, you're lean, you're strong, right?
Like
and
your
it
nutrition,
just takes a lot of pressure
eating
off
one meal a day is so easy.
Yeah.
People are like, "What does your meal prep look like?" Reservations.
Yeah.
At a good steakhouse. Yeah, that's it. I have reservations. That's all I need to worry about.
And you just get a great meal. You fill yourself up to the point of satisfaction, and you just fast till the next day. Now, when I do my meal at 1 p.m., there's absolutely no way I would think about food at 9 p.m.
Right.
I'm satisfied. I'm good. I already had my meal for today. Right. Now, another thing, what I see with the 6 meals a day, there's actually this person who has done the 6 meals a day in a calorie deficit, or basically has been doing And recently I was dealing with it. So she literally had to switch to 123s just to skip the irritation and anger from 6 small portions. Like literally eating small, tiny portions, like the bunny portions, makes you irritated and angry because you never reach the point of satisfaction.
Right.
Like you're just teasing the body with a little bit of food, little bit of food, little bit of food. And when you do it for long enough, you just get yourself into the point of irritation and anger. Like the body wants it all, right?
Perpetually angry, sure.
Yeah, exactly. And then you just never reach that point of a satisfaction, and the person's just irritated, and you know they're fighting, you know, with their spouses and stuff. So they actually had to switch just to the 123, just to get rid of the irritation. You know, people do 123 for various reasons, but also just to feel good, because when you have fat adaptation, the body's calm.
Right. So a little bit more about your clients. You see people putting on 20 pounds of muscle in 6 months.
I got proofs.
Right, yeah, you have before and after pictures.
I got so many references. I can, and the reviews, it's not able to translate the testimonials to English that I'm getting daily. I would spam your entire Facebook and Instagram. You would see nothing else, just DM trainer on Instagram. Yeah. You would see nothing else, literally. Yeah. That's how much I'm getting a day. So there's no question about does it work.
Right.
It's like 100%. It is how it is. Like if it doesn't work for someone, well, text me because we can fix it. The only way how this doesn't work for someone is there's something little you're doing wrong. Yeah. There might be something that little thing is gonna maybe not enough protein consumption, or when I get in a video with people who like, I'm training with X3. And I would like to get on your coaching program. You know, I'm not getting great results, or not, I wouldn't say great results. I would say I'm not getting the results as you're showing with your clients. I would like to get results like that too. So we get this video call after they sign up for the coaching program, and I actually see that they're like done at like 50% of their actual fatigue, right? Right. And the first second the pain hits, the first second the pain hits, like the set is over. You know?
Right, like they don't do any diminishing range or anything.
It's not even a fatigue in a full range in the first place.
Oh really? Wow.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, that's and the person's like, I feel good. You know, I'm like, we kind of got to push beyond it. You know, you got to go harder.
You got 80% of the way to the minimum.
You just got to chill yourself with the thing. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Like you just
so you can't move anymore.
Shaking.
Yeah, I mean you're doing repetitions, and then it's to the point where your last repetition is just like an inch. You can't do it anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that could be one of the things that, people who might be using X3 and the protocols, they might not be getting as intense results. However, if a person is completely out of shape, even those trainings that are not as great as we would like them to have, will represent some type of a signal. Right? So to some point, there will be a little bit of adaptation. However, when you fix it, and you deliver the most hardcore signal there possibly is. So there's literally all ATP, glycogen, and creatine phosphate missing. Yeah. And then you support it by the best foods. Like sometimes I have, like person tells me, I couldn't really finish the entire meal, so I just finished it the next morning. I mean, you were supposed to be fasting. I'm like, your dinner is like your one meal, and then you were supposed to be fasting, but the person before told me, for example, that hey, I'm doing the 123 fast and I eat one meal a day, or I eat 1 hour a day, and I couldn't finish it at night. I just finished it the next morning, right? I'm like, no, it's like the fasting window happens in the morning. Like you're not supposed to eat it, and the person's like, oh, okay, so no food there. I'm like, no, it's just the dinner. It's like we're talking about the 1 hour, right? So these little corrections in people's protocols just like make everything perfect, right? And sometimes even person who's like, they're like perfect IT people, or they're just perfect experts at whatever field they do. They just don't understand perfectly what we're talking about in our field. Yeah, sure. In terms of training and diet and fasting protocols. So they might be thinking they're actually doing the fasting correct way. There could be something actually from preventing them.
Well, to do the how about this? There's funny products out there that I saw like a candy bar the other day that said fasting bar. Yeah. Oh, you'll see it. It's a new thing, right? It's a candy bar that you eat, and apparently it means you're fasting, which is the opposite of what that is. Right. So I think it was it's really high fiber. So the idea is because the fiber doesn't count, that you get a very low calorie, but that's still not fasting.
Yeah, it's zero.
Right.
You drink water. Dry fast is when you don't drink water.
Right.
So it's like I don't know how much clearer that could be.
And
right?
apparently it's not quite
zero.
clear enough. Right.
Yeah. So and that's what I do for a living. I help
Yeah.
people guide them in the right direction.
Right.
Well,
Sometimes it's just information they don't want to hear.
Oh, okay.
The most searched for thing in nutrition, and I read an article about this. And it was more an article about people want what they want. They don't really want the truth. So people search for how to lose body fat without changing my diet. It's like a version of that search string is like the most popular thing. That's crazy. Like, obviously, if you're overweight, it has to do with your nutrition. Like, obviously.
Yeah.
And if they want to lose weight without changing their nutrition, it's never gonna happen. Like, it's just like they're doomed.
Yeah.
But
where's the material gonna come from?
Right.
Yeah. Impossible. Yeah. There's this one thing I wanted to say. Yeah, I got it on my mind. Yeah, on my mind. Yeah, it's gonna come back.
Yeah, I mean, did we kind of hit everything we wanted to hit? I feel like we did. I feel like everything
we got some practical, some information from the field, and then the science from you. So, now the thing is, everything I practice with my clients and on myself comes from John. Everything, all the data. First I discovered John's videos in 2016. Right? Is that when the X3 started really coming up?
I did a soft launch in, I was speaking theoretically first. So you probably, it was Phil. It was Phil Hernan. It was one of his videos. And then, I built my sort of online pages, but I hadn't actually launched it yet. I was doing experiments with Prototype, and I was making very bold statements about growing muscle, losing body fat, totally the opposite of the way anybody else had been doing it. But I said, this way is better. You'll grow more muscle faster and you'll lose more body fat faster.
Yeah.
And, already people were like, this guy's insane, he's wrong. And so, then I think it was 17.
Now, some people might think that. There was a lot of people just quietly watching and interested. Like,
sure.
I was one of those guys.
You were one of the guys who was just like
I get it. I get what you're saying.
Right. So first I was talking about the theory, and then my soft launch was on the Dave Asprey podcast. So I did Dave's podcast, and that was like, it went on sale that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I first found you, through Phil, through his videos, I understood the science. It just made sense. Everything we talked about the force production of the body. And the X3, however, I just had this emotional connection towards weights because I used to lift with the weights, and I did some bodybuilding competitions in the past and stuff. So it just mentally I couldn't detach myself from that life.
Oh yeah.
It took me a while to really detach myself and reconfirm basic questions as I answered today. Is really one set enough?
Right.
Is resistant band enough to build muscle? Can I really only train between 10 to 30 minutes? It really depends on the size of your body, right? How much gasping?
How much air?
How much? How much you're gasping for air? So these were all the questions that were just popping up in my head. So first thing I do is I do things wrong. I get X3 and I do 3 sets. Why? Because it's just as close as it gets to my standards at that time.
Right. Did you take it to the gym too?
Yeah.
People like taking it to the gym,
but
then they don't like doing a brief workout. It's like they want to do a longer one. But the stimulus from X3 is so powerful, you can't handle it that way.
And the cellular adaptation does not work within multiple sets, right? So you really present a situation for the body that's very intense and short. And then you get the adaptation.
Right.
And that's the X3.
Yeah.
So now at that point I did it. And I just can't detach myself from what was known to me for so long. So I end up doing 3-4 sets of chest press at the gym.
And everybody needs to keep in mind, the objective is to create growth. That's your objective when you go to train. Any stimulus into the body, it's the most intense stimulus that's going to create the greater effect. So the most intense sunlight stimulates your skin for a suntan. The most intense abrasion on your hand gives you the callus. The most intense load that you put through the musculature is going to create the greatest effect. So you don't want a longer load, you want a shorter load, but a greater one, a higher quality one that creates greater fatigue. And so that's why X3 is both will grow more muscle and it's quicker to use.
Exactly. And the practicity is what helps people get in shape.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way, like how much or how many people can actually find 2 to 3 hours a day? Talking practical standpoint.
No,
Yeah, it's not that's where people fail. I have weekly consultations with every single of my clients. So I know exactly what's going on with them. And I've been in the world where you just hear a client say, no, I skipped the gym 3 times last week. Why? You know, my daughter needed this, needed that. You know, my mom needed this, needed that. So I couldn't focus on myself. I got 2 workouts in. Now you get 2 workouts in 1 week. Now that's like there's not enough signal. Yeah, there's not enough signal to happen anything in the body. Now the results are almost not happening. If they are very, very minimal.
Right.
So that's why X3 comes into play in terms of a practicity as well.
Right.
If anything, if we take away the load, if we take away the diminishing diminishing range, just the practical standpoint of X3 is going to make you build more muscle.
You're right.
Because you're just going to do it every day. If it was literally the same signal as the static weight, which is not, we know. So just by following and sticking to the plan religiously and never skipping the workout, and just being always on and sticking to the protocol, which is on your website. Now that itself has built the muscle because right now you're just training every day. A lot of people just skip workouts and the body's just taking away protein synthesis from the body. Yeah, it's just
all missed opportunities for growth.
Missed opportunities like last 6 months you could actually use to become better. In the last 6 months you skipped 3 months. It's going to have an impact.
In 3 years I have not skipped a workout.
Yeah.
No.
Really? I skipped about 4 last year because I moved to a different continent. That was the only reason.
Okay, that'll do.
Yeah. I had to deal with a lot of stuff, including like getting, my wife's identity like renewed and all the, like social security numbers and everything. So
sure.
That was the only reason why I skipped. And it was 4 in 365 days. So you got 361 days of stimulus. It's right in your home.
Right.
That's what allows me to have fast transformations.
Yeah.
Because you put everything together for the people as easy as it's practical. So we talked about the science, right? There's more science than ever. Like it is a lot for some people who might just not be into the lifting that much.
Right.
Let's simplify it and let's put it in like an everyday person life. The only thing I'm asking you to do, eat 1 meal a day and train 15 minutes a day.
Right. And get 1 gram per pound of body weight in protein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, there's no way you're gonna be fit ever.
Right.
No way.
Yeah.
Just like that's like as simple as it is. It's a 15-20 minute workout and then you get the 1 meal.
Yeah.
So every single person I understands, okay, I can do it because I have time and or if I don't want to really make it. Right. You're gonna eat regardless. So if you eat once or 5 times, you're gonna have 15 minutes for workout. So that's how simple it is. That's all I'm talking about. I do it. I got John does it. All the fit people in my group do it too, and result is always the same. Fat is going on, muscle is going up.
Yeah. Awesome, man. This is a great video.
Thanks,
yeah, beautiful. Awesome.
It was an amazing video. Thank you guys for watching.
Thanks.